Introduction: The new rules of the game. Imagine for a second if Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi had stayed at their very first clubs for their entire careers out of a sense of loyalty. Imagine if they looked at a contract offer from Real Madrid or Manchester City and said, "No thanks, I really like the cafeteria lady here at Sporting Lisbon, and my manager is a nice guy, so I'll stay for a fraction of what I'm worth." It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? We know that in the world of professional football, movement is power. We know that these athletes are businesses unto themselves. They wouldn't have broken world records, they wouldn't have built global brands, and they certainly wouldn't have commanded multi-million-dollar salaries if they hadn't embraced the transfer market. Yet, here you are. You are likely doing exactly that with your own career. You are playing the loyalty game in a stadium that was rebuilt for mercenaries decades ago. Welcome to the Career Mercato. If you picked up this audiobook, it's because you suspect something is broken in the traditional career advice you've been given. You've been told that if you keep your head down, work hard, and wait for your annual review, the company will take care of you. You've been told that job hopping looks bad on a resume. You've been told to be grateful for the job you have. But let's look at the scoreboard. Inflation is rising. The cost of living is skyrocketing. And your annual raise, if you even got one, probably hovered somewhere around 3%. That's not a raise. That's a cost of living adjustment that doesn't even cover the cost of living. Meanwhile, you see a new hire join your team. They have the same title as you, maybe even less experience than you, but you find out through the grapevine that they are making 20% more than you. How does that happen? It happens because they played the Mercato. They understood the one fundamental economic truth of the corporate world. The budget to acquire new talent is always higher than the budget to retain existing talent. This is not a book about how to become a better employee. I am not going to teach you how to be more productive, how to organize your inbox, or how to get along with difficult coworkers. There are plenty of books about that. This is a playbook on how to stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like a free agent. It's about how to manage your career with the cold, calculated strategy of a football agent. In professional football, the Mercato is the transfer window, that chaotic, high-stakes period where clubs buy and sell players. It's where values are determined not by what a player did 5 years ago, but by what the market is willing to pay them today. In the corporate world, the Mercato is always open. But most people don't know how to play. They sit on the bench, waiting for the coach to notice them. They let their contracts run down without negotiating. They don't know their own transfer value. Over the next few hours, we are going to dismantle the company man mindset. We are going to treat your skills as a product, your resume as a highlight reel, and your interview as a tryout. We're going to look at the data, the psychology, and the hard tactics of salary negotiation. You might be thinking, but I like my job. I like my team. That's fine. You can love your team, but you must never fall in love with the corporation. The corporation is the club owner. The club owner looks at a spreadsheet. If you are underpaid and overperforming, you are a high ROI asset. That's great for them, but it's terrible for your bank account. We're going to explore why the fastest way to increase your salary is rarely an internal promotion. We'll look at the math. If you stay in one job, a truly exceptional raise is maybe 5 to 7%. But the average salary bump when changing companies? It's often between 15 and 20%, sometimes much higher. Do that math over a 10 or 20-year career. The person who transfers clubs every 3 to 4 years doesn't just end up with a slightly higher salary, they end up in a completely different financial stratosphere compared to the person who stayed loyal to one badge. We are going to walk through this system step by step. First, we'll tackle the mindset. We have to kill the guilt. You know that feeling when you sneak away to take a recruiter's phone call during lunch? That guilt is a control mechanism. We're going to get rid of it. Then we're going to audit your value. Just like a scout looks at stats, goals, assists, clean sheets, we are going to look at your KPIs. We need to find the number that the market says you are worth, not the number your current boss thinks they can get away with paying you. We're going to talk about your jersey sales, your personal brand. In modern football, clubs don't just buy a player for their skills on the pitch, they buy them for the commercial value they bring. Similarly, companies hire people who look like winners. We'll discuss how to optimize your LinkedIn and your portfolio so that you look like a marquee signing before you even walk in the room. We'll cover agents, the headhunters and recruiters. You need to know how to use them, how to talk to them, and how to make them fight for your higher salary. Because remember, their commission is based on your base pay. When you win, they win. And of course, we will spend a lot of time on the contract negotiation, the transfer fee. This is where most people lose money. They get an offer, they get excited, and they say yes immediately. A professional player never accepts the first offer. We are going to teach you how to use silence, how to use leverage, and how to create a bidding war. Finally, we'll talk about longevity. How do you keep performing so you don't get cut? How do you transition from being a player to being the manager, the coach, where the earning ceiling is even higher? This strategy isn't just for people in sales or tech. It applies to accountants, engineers, teachers, nurses, and project managers. If you trade your time for money, you are in the game. The only question is, are you playing to win, or are you just happy to be on the field? By the end of this audiobook, you will have a complete roadmap. You will feel different about walking into your office tomorrow. You won't see a boss and a subordinate. You will see a buyer and a seller. And for the first time, you will know exactly what you are selling and exactly what it costs. The days of the gold watch for 40 years of service are gone. The days of the one club man are over. This is the era of the Mercato. If you're ready to stop playing amateur and start managing your career like a pro, let's look at the first rule of the game.
Chapter 1. The Death of Loyalty. Adopting the Mercato Mindset. There is a phrase that hangs in the air of almost every corporate town hall, every onboarding session, and every holiday party. It sounds warm. It sounds inviting. It's usually delivered by a CEO standing on a stage or a manager sitting across the desk from you. They smile and say, "Here at this company, we are a family." I want you to take that phrase, wrap it in mental caution tape, and throw it in the trash. This is the single most dangerous myth in your professional life. Because if you believe you are part of a family, you will act like a family member. You will make sacrifices without expecting a return. You will tolerate bad behavior. You will stay out of loyalty even when it hurts you. But let's be honest. A family doesn't fire you because quarterly earnings were down. A family doesn't put you on a performance improvement plan because you missed a KPI. A family loves you unconditionally. A company loves you conditionally, on the condition that you generate more value than you cost. In the football world, fans love to talk about loyalty. They love the player who kisses the badge. But do you know who doesn't rely on loyalty? The players themselves. They know that if they blow out a knee, or if their form drops for 6 months, the club will replace them in the next transfer window without a second thought. The first step to winning in the career mercato is to kill the company man or company woman inside you. You have to realize that employment is a business transaction. It is an exchange of labor for capital. Nothing more, nothing less. When you strip away the emotional manipulation of the work family, you can start looking at the cold, hard math of your career. And the math is startling. Let's talk about the difference between the stayer and the mover. The stayer is the loyal employee. They work hard. They hope for that annual raise. In a standard corporate environment, a good annual raise, a really good one, is about 3 to 4%, if you're lucky. If inflation is running at 3%, your purchasing power has stayed exactly the same. You haven't actually made any more money. You've just tread water. Now, let's look at the mover. The mover adopts the Mercato mindset. They treat their career like a series of contracts. When they switch companies, when they transfer clubs, they aren't looking for 3%. The average salary increase for a professional switching jobs is between 10 and 20%. In high-demand fields like tech or specialized sales, it can be 30% or more. Let's play this out over 10 years. Employee A starts at $50,000. They stay loyal. They get a 3% raise every single year. After 10 years, they are making about $67,000. Employee B starts at the same $50,000, but every 3 years, they transfer. They make a move. Each time they move, they negotiate a 20% jump. After 3 years, they jump to $60,000. 3 years later, they jump to $72,000. 3 years after that, they jump to over $86,000. After 10 years, employee B, who has the exact same amount of experience as employee A, is making nearly $20,000 more per year. Over a 40-year career, that difference is in the millions of dollars. That is the cost of loyalty. This is why the Mercato mindset is not just about greed, it's about survival. It's about ensuring that your financial growth outpaces inflation and the cost of living. So how do you make this shift? How do you stop feeling like a traitor every time you look at a job board? You have to start viewing yourself as a business. You are the CEO of You Incorporated. Your skills, your ability to code, to sell, to manage, to write, these are your products. The company you work for is simply your current client. If you were a freelance consultant and you had one client that paid you under market rate, demanded you work late for free, and told you, "We're a family," to avoid paying your invoice, you would fire that client and find a new one. Why is it any different just because you have a W-2 or a permanent contract? It isn't. Adopting this mindset changes how you show up to work. Ironically, it often makes you a better employee. When you know you're an asset with a market value, you perform better. You keep your skills sharp because you know you need to be ready for the market. You don't get bogged down in office politics because you know you won't be there forever. You become a professional mercenary. And in history, mercenaries were often the most effective soldiers because they were paid to be effective. Now, I hear the objection already. But isn't job hopping a red flag? Won't resumes with short stints look bad? 10 or 15 years ago, maybe. But the stigma of job hopping is dead. In fact, staying at one company for 10 years can sometimes look worse. It can signal that you're stagnant, that you haven't learned new systems, or that you lack ambition. Recruiters today, the scouts, expect movement. They assume that top talent will move every 3 to 4 years. If you're a top striker in football and you stay in the second division for 10 years, people assume you aren't good enough for the Premier League. If you move up, people assume you're chasing greatness. So here is your reality check for this chapter. You owe your employer a day's work for a day's pay. You owe them professionalism. You owe them results while you're on the clock. You do not owe them your future. You do not owe them your financial security. The moment you realize that the company will survive without you is the moment you become free. When you walk into the office tomorrow, I want you to look around. Don't look at it as your home. Look at it as a training ground. Look at the projects you are working on and ask, how does this increase my transfer value? How does this look on my highlight reel? If the answer is it doesn't, then you need to change what you're doing. We are done with the guilt. We are done with the family myth. You are a free agent, temporarily under contract. Now that you've separated emotions from business, we have a practical problem to solve. You might agree that you need to move, and you might agree that you want more money. But do you actually know what you're worth? Not what you think you're worth, but what the market is actually willing to pay for a player with your stats. Because you can't negotiate a transfer fee if you don't know your value. Now that you've separated emotions from business, we need to figure out exactly how much you're actually worth on the open market.
Chapter 2. The Stats Sheet. Calculating your market value. In professional football, every player has a price tag. If a club wants to buy a striker, they don't just guess a number. They look at the data. They go to sites like Transfermarkt. They look at goals scored, assists made, pass completion rates, and minutes played. They look at the player's age and contract length. It is a cold, calculated valuation based on performance. If Erling Haaland scores 50 goals a season, his price goes up. It's simple math. But when it comes to your career, how do you come up with your price? Most people do it based on feeling. You think, I work hard, I'm stressed out, and my rent went up, so I deserve more money. Or worse, you base it on your current salary. You think, well, I make $50,000 now, so I'd be happy with $55,000. This is the wrong way to play the game. Your rent, your stress, and your current salary are irrelevant to the market. The market doesn't care about your needs. It cares about your value. In this chapter, we are going to build your stats sheet. We're going to strip away the emotion and find out exactly what your transfer fee should be. Benchmarking, the transfer market for employees. The first thing you need to understand is that salary secrecy is a tool designed to keep wages low. Companies love it when you don't know what your coworker makes. They love it when you don't know what the competitor across the street is paying for the exact same role. To win in the Mercato, you have to become an investigator. You need data. So where do you get it? You can't just ask your boss, what's the maximum you'd pay me? They won't tell you. You need to use external sources. Websites like Glassdoor, Payscale, Salary.com, and for those in tech, Levels.fy are your best friends. These are your scouting databases. Here is your assignment. Go to these sites and search for your specific job title in your specific city. But don't stop there. Search for the job title above you. Search for the job title you want. You will likely see a range. Let's say the range for a project manager in your city is between $80,000 and $120,000. Most people look at that and think, okay, I'll aim for the middle, $100,000. No. In the Mercato, we assume you are a top player. If you are good at what you do, you should be aiming for the 75th to 90th percentile of that range. Why? Because companies rarely pay the top of the band unless you force them to. You also need to look at industry reports. Recruiters often publish annual salary guides. Download them. Read them. When you have this data, you are armed. You are no longer asking for a raise, you are correcting a market discrepancy. There is a huge psychological difference between saying, I want a raise, and saying, the market data shows that professionals with my experience are commanding 20% more than my current compensation. One sounds like a complaint, the other sounds like a business fact. Identifying your KPIs, goals and assists. Now, data is useless if you can't prove you belong in that top bracket. A football club pays for goals. What does your company pay for? This is where most people fail. They confuse tasks with results. If I ask you what you do, and you say, I manage the weekly reports and attend client meetings, you are describing tasks. Tasks are cheap. Anyone can be trained to do tasks. But if you say, I optimize the reporting process to save the team 5 hours a week, or I led 3 major clients who are at risk of leaving, those are results. Those are goals and assists. You need to audit your career and identify your KPIs, or key performance indicators. Every job, no matter what it is, comes down to one of 3 things: making the company money, saving the company money, or saving the company time. That's it. If you are in sales, it's easy. Your stat is revenue. If you are in customer service, your stat might be retention rate or customer satisfaction scores. If you are in HR, your stat might be time to hire or reduction in turnover. You need to quantify your impact. Numbers are the language of business. If you can't put a number on what you do, you will have a very hard time arguing for a high transfer fee. Start writing these down. Managed a budget of $50,000. Led a team of 5 people. Increased web traffic by 15%. These numbers are your stats sheet. When a scout, a recruiter, or hiring manager asks why you were worth that high salary you found in step 1, you don't tell them you work hard. You show them your stats. You say, I am worth the top of the market because I deliver top of the market results. Internal versus market value, the loyalty tax. Now, here's the painful truth we need to confront. There is usually a massive gap between your internal value and your market value. Your internal value is what you're worth to your current company. To them, your value is usually current salary plus 3%. Why? Because that's what the spreadsheet says. That's what the budget allows. They anchor your value to what they hired you for 3 years ago. But the market doesn't care what you were hired for 3 years ago. The market pays for what you can do today. This creates a phenomenon known as salary compression. You might have noticed that new hires often come in making more money than people who've been there for years. It's infuriating, isn't it? You have the institutional knowledge, you know where the files are saved, you know how to fix the coffee machine, yet the new guy makes 10 grand more. This isn't an accident. It's a structural reality of the corporate world. The budget for new hires is competitive. It has to match the current heat. The budget for retention is static. It's designed to control costs. This gap is the loyalty tax. Every year you stay at a company without a market adjustment, you are effectively paying a tax for the comfort of not moving. Let's say your market value, what a competitor would pay you, is $100,000, but your current company pays you $85,000. You are paying $15,000 a year for the privilege of sitting in the same chair. Is that chair comfortable enough to cost you $15,000? Probably not. By calculating these two numbers, your internal salary and your external market rate, you clarify your position. You realize that you're not asking for more. You are simply realizing that your current club can no longer afford your transfer fee. If you are Lionel Messi and you're playing for a team that can only afford to pay you like a rookie, you don't get mad at the team. You simply realize you have outgrown the stadium. So you have your homework. Find the salary range for your role, find the salary range for the role above you, and dig up your specific numbers, your goals and assists that prove you belong at the top of that range. You know your price tag. Now let's make sure the scouts, recruiters and hiring managers can see it too. Because right now, your resume probably looks like a job description. We need to turn it into a highlight reel. Ready for Chapter 3?
Chapter 3. The Highlight Reel. Optimizing your portfolio. When a football scout wants to check out a new player in Brazil or Argentina, they don't sit down and watch 90 minutes of a boring mid-season match where the player mostly jogs around the midfield. They don't have time for that. They watch the highlight reel. They watch a 3-minute video set to fast-paced music that shows every goal, every assist, every tackle, and every piece of magic. They want to see the peak performance. They want to see the ceiling of what that player can do. Now, look at your resume. Does it look like a highlight reel, or does it look like a boring match report? Most resumes read like a job description. They say things like, responsible for managing the team, or duties included answering emails and filing reports. This is the equivalent of a football player saying, I showed up to the stadium and I wore the jersey. Congratulations. That is the bare minimum. That is not a highlight. If you want to command a high transfer fee, you need to stop writing a resume and start producing a highlight reel. In this chapter, we're going to overhaul how you present yourself on paper. Turning duties into stats. The biggest mistake people make is listing their responsibilities. Responsibilities are what you are supposed to do.
Achievements are what you actually did. A scout doesn't care that a striker was responsible for trying to score goals. They care that he scored 20 goals in 30 games. So we need to rewrite your bullet points. We need to switch from passive language to active statistical language. Here's the formula. Action verb plus the number plus the result. Let's take a boring bullet point. Responsible for customer service inquiries. That tells me nothing. It tells me you sat in a chair and answered a phone. Now, let's apply the Mercato filter. Resolved 50 customer inquiries daily, maintaining a 98% satisfaction rating, which was the highest in the department. Do you feel the difference? The first one is a commodity. The second one is a star player. Let's try another one. Maybe you're in a support role, like an administrative assistant. Old bullet point, helped organize the annual company conference. New bullet point, coordinated logistics for a 200-person industry conference negotiating vendor contracts that saved the company $10,000 under budget. You need to go through every single line of your resume with a red pen. If a bullet point doesn't have a number, a percentage, or a dollar sign, ask yourself why it's there. If you can't quantify it, can you qualify it? Can you mention the scope, the size of the team, the prestige of the client? Your resume should not be a history of your time. It should be a catalog of your wins. When a recruiter scans it, and they will only scan it for about 6 seconds, they should see numbers popping off the page. Those numbers are your goals and assists. Now, the visual proof, portfolios and case studies. Now, in the football world, video is king. In the corporate world, we often think a text resume is enough. But for many high-paying roles, you need more. You need a portfolio. And I'm not just talking to the graphic designers and copywriters here. But I'm an accountant. I'm a project manager. I don't have a portfolio. Yes, you do. Or at least you should. A portfolio is simply proof of competence. It is the show, don't tell principle. If you're a project manager, create a one-page case study of a difficult project you rescued. Outline the problem, the strategy you used to fix it, and the final successful outcome. That is a portfolio piece. If you're a software developer, don't just list the languages you know. Link to a GitHub repository where the code is visible. If you're in marketing, have screenshots of the campaigns you ran and the analytics dashboard showing the growth. When you send a resume that includes a link to a featured projects document or a personal website, you immediately separate yourself from the 99 other applicants who just sent a generic Word document. You are signaling that you're a professional who takes pride in their craft. You're showing them the game tape. This psychological shift is powerful. It moves you from being a candidate to being an expert. Experts have case studies. Employees have resumes. So here's your task for today. Open your resume. Delete the objective statement at the top. Nobody reads those. Look at your bullet points. Add numbers. Add results. Create a key achievements section at the very top so the scout sees your goals before they even see where you played. Your highlight reel is ready. You look good on paper. But in the modern game, paper isn't enough. The biggest stars don't just have stats, they have fans. They have a brand. Next, we need to build your brand so the top clubs come looking for you rather than you having to chase them. It's time to talk about jersey sales.
Chapter 4. Jersey Sales. Personal Branding and Visibility. Let's talk about David Beckham. When he transferred to Real Madrid, or the LA Galaxy, the clubs didn't just pay him because he could bend a free kick. There were plenty of players who could kick a ball. They paid him millions because the moment he signed the contract, the club sold millions of dollars worth of jerseys. He brought eyeballs. He brought hype. He had commercial value. In the Career Mercato, your skills are your ability to play the game. But your reputation? That's your jersey sales. There is a hidden truth in the job market. The best jobs are rarely posted. They are filled through networks,
through recommendations, and through headhunters who already know who they want before they even write the job description. If you are invisible, you are undervalued. You might be the best engineer, the best accountant, or the best writer in your city, but if nobody knows you exist, your transfer value is capped at whatever your current boss decides to pay you. We need to build your hype. We need to make sure that when a scout is looking for a player in your position, your name is the first one on the list. And in the modern world, that stadium is called LinkedIn. The billboard, SEO for your career. Most people treat LinkedIn like a digital filing cabinet. They upload their resume, set a generic profile picture, and then log out for 6 months. This is a massive mistake. LinkedIn is not a storage unit. It is a search engine. It is the Google of the corporate world. Right now, as you are listening to this, there are recruiters, scouts, sitting at their desks typing keywords into a search bar. They are typing Python developer, forensic accountant, supply chain manager. If those keywords aren't in your headline, your summary, and your job descriptions, you don't exist. You are invisible. You need to optimize your profile for search engine optimization, or SEO. Look at your headline. Does it just say, associate at company X? That's a waste of space. Nobody searches for associate. Change it to senior project manager, agile certified, fintech specialist. Now you are hitting 3 different search terms. You're telling the algorithm exactly what you are. Your About section shouldn't be a boring bio. It should be your pitch. It should tell the story of your career in a way that makes a recruiter stop scrolling. Use the stats we gathered in the last chapter. I help companies scale revenue by 20% through strategic sales operations. A great profile is a billboard on the busiest highway in the digital world. You want the traffic to stop and look. Content creation, showing the highlights. Now, having a billboard is step 1, but you also need to play the game while people are watching. This is where content creation comes in. I can hear you groaning. I don't want to be an influencer. I don't want to post selfies. Good. I don't want you to do that either. I want you to demonstrate expertise. When you post about your industry, you are signaling to the market that you are engaged, informed, and passionate. You don't need to write long essays. Did you read an interesting article about your field? Share it with 2 sentences of your own analysis. Did you solve a tough problem at work? Write a short post about the challenge and the solution, without sharing confidential info, of course. Did you attend a conference? Post a photo and share your top 3 takeaways. This is fan engagement. When you consistently show up in the feed with smart, professional thoughts, you build a reputation. People start to associate your face with your expertise. When a hiring manager sees your name on a resume and they think, wait, I saw a post by this person last week about this exact topic, you have already won half the battle. You are a known quantity. You are a named player, not just a rookie. So, here's your challenge. Update your LinkedIn headline today. Make it searchable. And then, for the next week, spend 10 minutes a day engaging. Comment on 5 posts. Connect with 3 new people in your industry. Don't be a spectator in your own career. Get on the field. Make some noise. Sell some jerseys. Because once you have the brand and you have the stats, you're ready for the big leagues. But you can't always negotiate the deal alone. Sometimes you need a professional to open the door. Your brand is growing. Now it's time to understand the key players who facilitate the big moves, the agents.
Chapter 5. Agents and Scouts. Working with Headhunters. In the world of professional football, the agent is often seen as the villain. They are the ones pulling the strings, demanding huge fees and engineering transfers behind the scenes. But ask any top player, and they will tell you, a good agent is worth their weight in gold. A good agent knows which clubs are buying, they know what the budgets are, and they have the direct phone number of the manager.
In your career, these agents are called headhunters or external recruiters. And if you want to make a big move, a Mercato move, you need to understand how to use them. Most people misunderstand the role of a headhunter. They think the recruiter works for them, like a career counselor, or they think the recruiter is just an obstacle to get past. Here is the reality. Headhunters are sales professionals, and the product they're selling is you. You need to understand their business model. Typically, when an external recruiter places you in a job, the hiring company pays them a commission. That commission is usually between 20 and 30% of your first year's base salary. Think about the math for a second. If you get a job for $100,000, the recruiter's firm gets $20,000. If you negotiate that salary up to $120,000, the recruiter's firm gets $24,000. This means, theoretically, their incentives are aligned with yours. They want you to get paid more because they get paid more. They are your agent. But there's a catch. They only get paid if the deal closes. So while they want a high price, they mostly want a done deal. So how do you work with these agents to get the best transfer? Finding your super agent. First, you need to stop talking to generalists. There are thousands of recruiters who spam LinkedIn messages to anyone with a pulse. These are not the people who will get you a championship contract. You need to find specialist recruiters. These are people who only recruit for your specific position or industry. If you are a software engineer in fintech, you want a recruiter who only places engineers in fintech. Why? Because they know the market value better than you do. They know which companies have just received funding. They know which managers are desperate. They hold the pocket listings, jobs that aren't even advertised on the public market yet. Go on LinkedIn. Search for recruiter plus your industry. Look at their profiles. Do they post about your field? Do they seem to understand the technical jargon? If yes, connect with them. Send them a message saying, I am a high-performing specialist in this field, and I am exploring the market. I'd love to be on your radar. Build a relationship with 3 or 4 of these top-tier agents. They are your ticket to the hidden job market. Now, the golden rule of salary talk. Now, the most dangerous moment with a recruiter is the very first phone call. They will be friendly, they will ask about your background, and then, casually, they will ask, so what are you currently making? Do not answer that question. This is a trap. If you tell them your current salary, you have just anchored your value to your past, not your future. If you are making $80,000, but the role has a budget of $130,000, and you tell them you make $80,000, they will likely try to get you for $100,000. It's a nice raise for you, but you just left $30,000 on the table. When a recruiter asks for your current salary, you say this: I'm not comfortable sharing my current compensation as it's confidential to my current employer. However, based on my skills and the market rate for this level of seniority, I am looking for roles in the range of insert your target range. By doing this, you become the one who sets the price. You are the star player telling the agent what it will take to get you to sign. Now, you must be realistic. If your range is absurdly high, the agent will drop you because they know they can't sell you. But if you use the data from Chapter 2, your number will be defensible. So how do you turn the agent into an advocate? Once you're in the process, the agent is your best friend. They want you to win the interview because they don't get paid if you fail. Use them. Ask them for the scouting report on the hiring manager. Ask them, what is this manager's personality like? What are the biggest problems they are trying to solve? Why did the last person leave this role? A good headhunter will have this inside information. They will coach you. They might say, hey, this manager really hates long answers, so keep it brief. Or they're really focused on ROI, so talk about numbers. This is insider trading, and it is perfectly legal. You are walking into the interview with the answers to the test. Also, be a professional client to them. Be responsive. If they call, answer. If they need a tailored resume, send it within an hour. If you are difficult to work with, they will move on to the next candidate. Remember, they have a roster of players. You want to be the one they fight for. When it comes to the final negotiation, let them be the bad guy. If the offer comes in low, you can tell the recruiter, "I'm really excited about the role, but the numbers just aren't where we discussed. Can you go back to them and see if there's flexibility?" The recruiter can then go to the company and say, "Look, he really wants to join, but he has other interest at a higher level. We need to bump this up to seal the deal." It is much easier for a third party to be aggressive about money than it is for you. So treat your recruiters well. Vetting them is just as important as vetting the company. A great headhunter can accelerate your career by years in a single phone call. You have your agents. Now you need to understand the timing, because in the Mercato, timing is everything. You can't just transfer whenever you feel like it. You have to wait for the window to open. Ready for Chapter 6?
Chapter 6. The Transfer Window. Timing your move. In professional football, you can't just wake up one Tuesday in November and decide to switch teams. There are specific windows. There is the summer window, when teams have fresh budgets and are building their squads for the new season. And there is the winter window, often used for panic buys to save a season. If you try to sell a player when the window is closed, nobody is buying. Now, in the corporate world, we don't have official closed periods. Technically, you can get hired on Christmas Day, but functionally, the corporate calendar has very specific seasons. If you try to enter the market at the wrong time, you will face silence, lowball offers, and frustration. But if you time your run perfectly, you ride a wave of demand that pushes your price up automatically. You need to understand the ebb and flow of corporate cash. The fiscal calendar. Follow the money. The first rule of timing is simple. Companies can only hire you if they have the budget approved. For most corporations, the fiscal year follows the calendar year. This means that January and February are the absolute hottest times for the transfer market. This is your summer window. Why? Because in Q4 of the previous year, October, November, December, managers were fighting for their budgets. They were begging the CFO for headcount. In January, that money is released. The bank account is full. Managers are under pressure to deploy capital, which means hiring bodies before the executives change their minds. If you are looking for the maximum number of opportunities, launch your campaign in mid-January. Everyone is back from the holidays, they're refreshed, and they have money to spend. The second wave comes in September and October. This is the winter window. The summer vacation slowdown is over. Managers are looking at the remaining budget and realizing, if I don't spend this money by December 31st, I lose it next year. This is the use it or lose it season. Hiring happens fast here because they are racing against the end of the year clock. Now let's talk about the dead zones. July and August are notoriously slow in many industries. Decision makers are in the Hamptons or the Mediterranean or just at a cabin by the lake. You might get an interview, but the process will drag on for weeks because Susan is out of the office until next Tuesday. It kills momentum. And December, forget about it. Budgets are closed, people are mentally checked out. Unless it is an emergency, nobody is signing a contract on December 20th. So, if you are planning your escape, look at the calendar. Don't quit your job in frustration in November without a backup. You're walking into a winter desert. Wait for the window. Panic buying, the distress signal. In football, sometimes a team's star striker breaks his leg 1 week before the deadline. The manager panics. He needs a goal scorer now. He doesn't care about the price. He cares about survival. He goes to the market and pays double for a replacement. This happens in business every single day. We call it panic buying. This happens when a key employee quits unexpectedly in the middle of a critical project, or when a company wins a massive new client but realizes they don't have the staff to service them. These are the most lucrative opportunities in the Mercato. Why? Because the company is buying speed.
They're paying a premium for an immediate solution to a painful problem. How do you spot a panic buy? Look at the job posting. Does it say urgent? Does it say immediate start? Did the recruiter call you 3 times in one day? Is the interview process suspiciously fast? Can you meet the VP tomorrow? When you smell panic, you have leverage. They need you more than you need them. This is not the time to be modest with your salary request. When a house is on fire, you don't negotiate the price of the water hose. You pay whatever it costs. If you can position yourself as the immediate fixer, the plug-and-play solution who needs 0 training, you can command a massive premium. Finally, we need to talk about your personal timing. Most people wait until they're miserable to look for a job. They wait until they're burned out, tired, and hating their boss. They leave when their stock is low. When you're desperate, it shows. You smell like desperation in the interview. You accept the first offer because you just want to get out. The Mercato mindset is different. The best time to sell a player is right after they've had their best season. You want to enter the market when you are flying high. Maybe you just launched a big product. Maybe you just closed the biggest deal of the year. Maybe you just won an industry award. Your confidence is at an all-time high. Your stat sheet is fresh. You walk into interviews feeling like a champion, not a victim. This is counterintuitive. You might think, things are going great, why should I leave? Because that is when your value is at its absolute peak. That is when you can trade your recent success for a 30% jump at a new firm. If you wait until the project fails or you get bored, your bargaining power drops. It's a ruthless calculation, I know, but remember, we are managing a business here, and the business is you. So, look at the calendar. Is it January? Is it September? Are you coming off a win? If the stars align, the window is open. You have the strategy, you have the timing. Now you have to actually make the team. You have to get past the gatekeepers. The window is open. Next, we prepare for the tryout, the high-stakes interview.
Chapter 7. The Tryout. Crushing the Interview. In football, a manager can watch hours of video footage, but eventually they need to see the player on the pitch. They need to see how they move, how they communicate, and how they handle pressure. This is the tryout. In your world, this is the interview. And unfortunately, most people treat the interview like an interrogation. You walk in, sit in the hot seat, sweat through your shirt, and hope you give the right answers so the scary person across the table decides to give you money. This dynamic is all wrong. It reeks of desperation. It smells like a rookie. If you want to command a top-tier salary, you cannot walk into the room as a subordinate. You must walk in as a solution. You are not there to beg for a job. You are there to discuss a business partnership. You are a high-value asset determining if this club is the right place for your talent. When you shift your mindset from, "Please hire me," to, "Let's see if we are a match," the entire energy of the room changes. Confidence is currency. The consultant mindset. Diagnosing the pain. Here's the secret that hiring managers won't tell you. They are stressed. They are overworked. They have a problem, a hole in their team, that is costing them money or sleep. That is the only reason the job opening exists. Your goal in the interview is not to be liked. Your goal is to diagnose their pain and prescribe yourself as the medication. We call this the consultant mindset. When a consultant walks into a business, they don't sit there waiting to be asked, "What is your biggest weakness?" No, they ask questions. They say, "Tell me about the problems you're facing in the supply chain right now." You need to do the same. Early in the interview, try to flip the script. Ask the manager, "I've read the job description, but I'd love to hear from you. What is the single biggest challenge this role needs to solve in the first 90 days?
When they answer, let's say they tell you their sales team is disorganized. You have just been given the answer key to the rest of the test. Now every story you tell, every answer you give, should be focused on how you fix disorganized sales teams. You're no longer a generic candidate. You are the specific solution to their specific headache. You are the striker they need because they can't score goals. The game tape, the STAR method. Eventually, they will ask you behavioral questions. You know the ones. Tell me about a time you had a conflict with a coworker. Tell me about a time you failed. Most people ramble. They get lost in the details. They talk for 5 minutes and never actually answer the question. This is like a player dribbling in circles and never taking a shot. To look like a pro, you need a structure. You need the STAR method. STAR. Situation, task, action, result. Situation. Set the scene briefly. We were losing a key client. Task. What was your job? I had to renegotiate the contract. Action. This is the most important part. What did you specifically do? Not we, but I. I analyzed the usage data, found where they were overpaying, and proposed a new tier structure. Result. The goal, the stats. The client renewed for 2 years, and we increased the account value by 15%. If you tell a story without a result, you just kicked the ball into the stands. You need to hit the back of the net every single time. Practice your stories. Script them out. Make sure the action and result parts take up 80% of the airtime. Power questions. Shifting the dynamic. Now we come to the end of the interview. The manager looks at his watch and asks, "Do you have any questions for us?" If you say, "No, I think you covered everything," you have just failed the interview. If you say, "How many vacation days do I get?" you look like you don't care about the work. This is the moment to drop your power questions. These are questions designed to make the manager visualize you already working there. Try this one. If I were to join the team and we were sitting here 1 year from today, what would I have needed to achieve for you to say this was a massive success? Watch what happens. The manager has to pause. They have to imagine you in the seat. They have to imagine you succeeding. Psychologically, you have just moved from outsider to insider. Or try this. What is the one skill the team is currently missing that you're hoping this new hire brings? These questions show that you are thinking about performance, about impact, and about the team's success. It shows you are a serious professional. By the time you walk out of that room or click Leave Meeting on the video call, you want them thinking, "Wow, that person really gets it." You want them to feel a sense of relief, like help is finally on the way. That feeling, that is what drives up the price. When they are convinced you are the only one who can solve their problem, they stop looking at the budget and start looking for the checkbook. You have impressed the manager. You have shown them the highlights. Now comes the most critical part of the Mercato, the part where most people fold.
Chapter 8. The Contract Table. Psychology of Negotiation. The email lands in your inbox. Subject line, Offer of Employment. Your heart starts pounding. You open it. You scroll down past the benefits, past the start date, looking for the one number that matters. The base salary. You see the number. Maybe it's a little higher than what you make now. Maybe it's exactly what you hoped for. Your instinct screams, "Accept it, sign it before they change their minds." Stop. Take your hand off the mouse. Step away from the computer. This is the moment where championships are won or lost. In football, the transfer isn't complete until the terms are agreed upon. And let me tell you a secret. The first offer is never their best offer. It is a test. It is the floor, not the ceiling. If you sign immediately, you aren't being grateful. You are signaling that you were cheap. You are leaving money on the table that was already budgeted for you. In this chapter, we are going to walk into the boardroom, figuratively speaking, and sit at the contract table. We are going to master the psychology of the deal. The anchor, controlling the range. Negotiation is a psychological game of boundaries. The most important concept you need to understand is anchoring. The anchor is the first number put on the table. It sets the gravitational center for the rest of the conversation. If the company says, "We're thinking $80,000, the negotiation will now revolve around $80,000. If you fight hard, you might get $85,000. But if you speak first and say, "Based on my market research, I'm looking for something in the $110,000 range," you have moved the anchor. Now, $80,000 looks insulting. $100,000 looks like a compromise. There is a long-standing debate about who should say the number first. Old school advice says never speak first. But the Mercato strategy is different. If you have done your homework from Chapter 2, if you know the data, you should often anchor first. Why? Because you want to anchor high. You want to set the expectation that you are a premium signing. However, if they beat you to it and give you a low number, you must immediately re-anchor. You cannot let that low number sit there. You have to say, "I appreciate that starting point, but based on the scope of this role and the market value for these specific skills, that is significantly below the range I'm considering." You jolt the system. You reset the board. You remind them that you know what you're worth. Silence, the loudest weapon. Now, I'm going to teach you the most uncomfortable yet profitable tactic in the world. It requires 0 words. It is the power of silence. Here is the scenario. You're on the phone with the recruiter. They make an offer. They say, "We can offer you $95,000. Your instinct is to fill the awkward void. You want to say, "Oh, okay, that's interesting," or "Thanks so much." Don't. When they name a number, I want you to count to 5 in your head, slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It will feel like an eternity. Your skin will crawl. But on the other end of the line, the recruiter is panicking. They're thinking, "Oh no, he hates it. He's going to say no. I'm going to lose this candidate. The hiring manager is going to kill me." Often, before you even speak, they will crack. They will say, "I mean, that's just the starting base. We might have some flex on the signing bonus, or we could probably check with finance to see if we can get to $100,000. They're negotiating against themselves, and you haven't said a word. Silence signals confidence. It signals that you are evaluating the deal, not just jumping at it. When you finally speak, you say softly and slowly, To be honest, I was expecting something closer to your number." Use silence. It is free money. It's business, not personal. The final piece of the psychology puzzle is emotional detachment. Many people are afraid to negotiate because they think the company will get mad. They think, if I ask for more, they will rescind the offer. Let me put your mind at ease. In professional corporate recruiting, rescinding an offer just because a candidate negotiated is incredibly rare, It almost never happens. Companies expect you to negotiate. In fact, if you're being hired for a sales or leadership role and you don't negotiate, they might question your skills. You have to separate your self-worth from the transaction. They're not judging you as a human being. They are buying a service. If you walked into a car dealership and the salesman said, "The price is $30,000," and you said, "I'll give you $28,000," would the salesman get offended and kick you out? No. He would say, "Let me talk to my manager." Treat your salary the same way. Be polite, be professional, be enthusiastic about the job itself, but be firm on the numbers. You can say, "I'm incredibly excited about the team and the mission. I really want to make this work. But looking at the total package, the numbers aren't quite where they need to be for me to sign today." That is not a rejection. That is an invitation to dance. You've anchored the price, you've used silence to make them sweat. The offer is moving up. But to get the truly record-breaking contract, the one that changes your life, you need one more thing. You need leverage.
Chapter 9. The Bidding War. Creating Leverage. There is a word in the world of negotiation that is more powerful than experience, talent, or potential. That word is leverage. In physics, leverage allows a small person to lift a heavy object. In the Career Mercato, leverage allows an employee to dictate terms to a billion-dollar corporation. But what exactly is leverage? In its simplest form, leverage is the ability to walk away. If you need the job more than they need you, you have zero leverage. If they need you and you have other options, you have all the leverage. Think about a football transfer. If a player is desperate to leave his club and only one other team is interested, that team can offer a low salary. Take it or leave it. But if Manchester United, Real Madrid, and Bayern Munich all want that same player, the price skyrockets. The clubs stop looking at what the player is worth on a spreadsheet, and they start looking at what it costs to beat the other teams. It becomes an ego battle. It becomes a bidding war. Your goal in the Mercato is to manufacture this bidding war. You want to be the prize that two companies are fighting over. Synchronizing the race. The biggest mistake job seekers make is processing opportunities sequentially. You apply to company A, you do the phone screen, you do the interview, you get rejected. Then, and only then, do you apply to company B. This destroys your leverage. You are always dependent on one outcome. To create a bidding war, you need to run a parallel process. You need to treat your job search like a horse race where you want all the horses to cross the finish line at the exact same time. This requires discipline. When you decide to enter the market, remember the transfer window from Chapter 6, you need to blast your applications out all at once. Apply to 10 or 15 targeted roles in the same week. As the responses come in, you need to manage the timeline. If Company A is moving fast and Company B is moving slow, you have to slow Company A down. You can say, "I have a lot of project deliverables this week. Can we schedule the next round for early next week?" Meanwhile, you push Company B. "I have final rounds coming up with another firm, but I'm really interested in this role. Is it possible to accelerate the process?" You are the conductor of the orchestra. Your goal is to get the offer emails to land in your inbox within the same 48-hour window. When you have one offer in hand, you are safe. When you have two offers in hand, you are dangerous. Now you go back to Company A, the one that made the first offer, and you use Company B as leverage. You say, "Thank you so much for this offer. As I mentioned, I'm exploring a few opportunities. I have another offer on the table that is coming in at higher number. However, I really feel a better cultural fit here. If you can match that number, I'm ready to sign today." Notice the language. I'm ready to sign today. You are giving them a clear path to victory.
You are telling them exactly what it costs to win the auction. In many cases, Company A will match it. Sometimes they will beat it. And here is the beautiful part. Even if they don't match the salary, they will often try to make it up elsewhere. They might say, "We can't match that base salary, but we can give you a $10,000 signing bonus," or "We can add an extra week of vacation." You are now in a position where you cannot lose. You have two companies telling you how wonderful you are and throwing money at you to prove it. This is the peak of the Mercato. It is stressful, yes. It requires nerves of steel, but a bidding war can increase your compensation by 20 or 30% in a single afternoon. Never be afraid to let them know they have competition. In the dating world, in the real estate world, and in the job market, nothing drives up value like scarcity. Be the limited edition item that everyone wants. The base salary is up. You've squeezed them for every dollar they have in the salary budget. But a true superstar contract includes more than just the monthly paycheck. We need to look at the add-ons. The base salary is up, but a true superstar contract includes more than just the monthly paycheck.
Chapter 10. Add-ons and bonuses. The total package. When the headlines announce a massive football transfer, they usually splash a single number across the front page. Mbappe signs for $200 million. But when you read the fine print of the contract, you realize the story is much more complex. That number isn't just a weekly wage. It includes a signing-on fee, image rights, goal bonuses, Champions League qualification bonuses, and loyalty payments. The smart agents know that the base salary is just the foundation. The real wealth and the real lifestyle freedom is often found in the add-ons. In the corporate world, we tend to get tunnel vision on the base salary. We fight tooth and nail for an extra $5,000 a year, while ignoring the components that could be worth $50,000. You need to look at your offer not as a salary, but as a total compensation package. If the company has hit their limit on the base salary because of rigid HR bans, this is where you get creative. This is where you find the hidden buckets of money. The signing bonus, your transfer fee. Let me let you in on a secret about corporate finance. Companies hate increasing fixed costs. If they give you a higher base salary, they have to pay that every year, plus raises on top of it, plus pension contributions on top of that. It compounds. But companies love one-time payments. They have a completely different budget for acquisition costs. This is where the signing bonus comes in. In football, this is the fee paid directly to the player just for putting ink on the paper. If you are stuck in a negotiation, let's say you want $120,000, but they're stuck at $110,000, do not just walk away. Pivot to the signing bonus. You say this, "I understand that $110,000 is the top of your band for this role. I don't want to break your salary structure. However, to bridge the gap and make me feel comfortable signing today, could we look at a one-time signing bonus of $15,000? To a hiring manager, this is an easy yes. It comes out of a different budget line. It doesn't mess up their long-term payroll. But for you, that is a massive chunk of cash up front. It clears your credit card debt, it pays for a vacation, or it goes straight into investments. Never sign a contract without asking for a signing bonus. The worst they can say is, "We don't do that." But you'd be surprised how often they say, "Let me check," and come back with a check. Next, we look at the goal bonuses. In the corporate world, this is your variable compensation. Annual bonuses, commission, and equity. If you are going into a startup or a tech company, equity, stock options or RSUs, can be the difference between making a living and making a fortune. If the base salary is low, you demand more equity. You say, "If I'm taking a risk on a growing company, I want to share in the upside. I need more skin in the game." But be careful. Equity is lottery tickets. It might be worth millions or it might be worth zero. Do not trade too much salary for paper money unless you truly believe in the company's exit strategy. For more traditional companies,
focus on the annual performance bonus. This is usually a percentage of your salary, say 10% or 20%. Here is the trick. Ask about the triggers. Is the bonus guaranteed? Is it based on your performance or the company's performance? If it's based on company performance, you have no control over it. If the CEO makes a bad decision, you lose your bonus. Try to negotiate a guaranteed bonus for the first year. Or negotiate specific MBOs, management by objectives. I want my bonus tied to my sales numbers, not the global EBITDA. This is you saying, if I score 20 goals, pay me, even if the team gets relegated. Finally, there are the non-monetary add-ons. These are the clauses that determine your happiness. If they truly cannot move on money, they can often move on time. Time is the most expensive commodity you have. Negotiate your vacation days. If the standard is 2 weeks, ask for 3 or 4. I have a standing commitment to my family for 3 weeks a year, and I need that written into the contract. Negotiate remote work. I am most productive when I have deep focus time, and I would like it written in the contract that I work from home 2 days a week. Negotiate an education budget. I want to keep my skills sharp for you. Can we include a $5,000 annual stipend for courses and conferences? Think about it. If you get an extra week of vacation, that is essentially a 2% raise in your hourly rate. If you get a remote work agreement, you save thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours in commuting. That is real value. Don't just read the first page of the offer letter. Read the whole thing. Redline it. Send it back with notes. When you stack a signing bonus, a performance incentive, and an extra week of vacation on top of a strong base salary, you haven't just got a job. You have a deal. You have a package that reflects a star player. You have a great offer from a new club. But what if your current club wants to keep you?
Chapter 11. The Counteroffer. Contract Renewal versus Transfer. You walk into your manager's office. Your heart is thumping against your ribs. You have the offer letter from the new company signed and saved on your phone. You sit down, look them in the eye, and say the words, "I'm resigning." You expect them to be angry. You expect them to show you the door. But instead, something strange happens. Their face drops. They look panicked. And suddenly, after ignoring your requests for a raise for 2 years, they say, "Wait, don't make a hasty decision. We can fix this. What are they paying you? We'll match it. Actually, we'll beat it. We were just about to promote you." Welcome to the counteroffer. In football, this is the moment a club realizes they are about to lose their star player for free, so they desperately throw a massive contract renewal at them. It feels flattering. It feeds your ego. You think, finally, they realize how valuable I am. But I need you to listen to me very closely. The counteroffer is a trap. Accepting a counteroffer is statistically one of the worst career moves you can make. It rarely ends well. In this chapter, we are going to dissect why companies make them, why you should almost always reject them, and how to walk away without burning the bridge. The broken trust statistics. Let's look at the numbers. Recruiters and HR professionals have tracked this data for decades. The statistics show that roughly 80% of employees who accept a counteroffer end up leaving the company anyway within 6 to 12 months. Why is that number so high? First, you have to understand why the company is making the offer. It isn't because they suddenly had an epiphany about your talent. It's because they are terrified of the cost of replacing you. To replace you, they have to pay recruiter fees. They have to interview people for months, and the rest of the team will be overworked in the meantime. Throwing an extra $10,000 at you is simply cheaper than finding a replacement. It is a panic buy. But here's the problem. The moment you resigned, you broke the bond of loyalty. You are now a flight risk. You are the person who looked for the exit. Even if they pay you more to stay, the relationship is permanently altered. When the next promotion comes up, will they give it to you? Or will they give it to the guy who didn't try to quit?
When budget cuts happen, who's the first one on the list? The mercenary who almost left last time. Furthermore, money is rarely the only reason people leave. You were leaving because the culture was toxic, or the commute was too long, or there was no growth. A pay raise fixes none of that. 2 months after you accept the counteroffer, the money will feel normal, but the bad boss and the boring projects will still be there. You will be just as miserable, only slightly richer. The dangerous game of leverage. Now, some of you are thinking, but can't I use the outside offer just to force a raise with no intention of leaving? This is a high-stakes poker game. We call this the gun-to-the-head strategy. Yes, you can walk in and say, I have an offer for $120,000, match it or I leave. And yes, they might match it. But you have now established that the only way you get a raise is by threatening them. You have trained them that they don't need to reward your performance, they only need to respond to your threats. Is that the kind of relationship you want? The only time you should consider a counteroffer is if you absolutely love your current company, you love your boss, and the only issue was that you were underpaid. If you choose to stay, you must get everything in writing immediately. Not, we'll review it in 6 months. No, the new salary starts next payroll. The title change happens today. If it's not in writing, it's not real. But for 99% of you, the advice is simple. Thank them, be flattered, and say no. So how do you reject the counteroffer and resign without making enemies? The corporate world is incredibly small. The boss you quit on today might be the hiring manager at your dream company 5 years from now. You want to leave them thinking you are a class act. When you resign, keep it short, professional, and positive. Do not use the resignation meeting to air your grievances. Do not list all the reasons they failed you. It feels good in the moment, but it accomplishes nothing. Use the "it's not you, it's me" script. Say this: I've been presented with an incredible opportunity that aligns perfectly with my long-term career goals. It was a very difficult decision because I love the team here, but it's a step I have to take for my growth. When they make the counteroffer, say this: I am truly flattered and I appreciate you fighting for me, but I've already committed to the new organization and I want to honor my word. My focus now is on doing the best possible handover so the team succeeds after I'm gone. Notice what you did there. You made it about integrity. You said you want to honor your word. It is very hard for a manager to argue with that without looking like a jerk. Then work your notice period like a pro. Organize your files, train your replacement, leave a manual on how to do your job. If you leave the place in chaos, they will remember the chaos. If you leave the place organized, they will remember you as the one who got away. You want them to miss you. You want them to tell their friends, "Man, I wish we never lost Sarah. She was the best." That reputation is worth more than any counteroffer. So, stand firm. You went to the market, you found your value, and you found a new club that wants to pay it. Don't look back. The future is forward. You've signed the new contract, you've resigned from the old job, the deal is done. But wait, have you actually read the fine print of what you just signed? Because there might be a release clause or a restrictive covenant buried in there that could destroy your next move before it even happens. You've signed the new contract. Now let's talk about the release clause and protecting your future.
Chapter 12. The Release Clause. Reading the Fine Print. In 2017, the football world was shocked when Neymar Jr. left Barcelona for Paris Saint-Germain for a world record fee of €222 million. Everyone asked, how did PSG just take Barcelona's best player? The answer was simple. They triggered his release clause. It was a line in his contract that said, if someone pays this amount, he is free to go. Contracts are the rules of the game.
When you're excited about a new job, about the salary and the signing bonus, it is very easy to glaze over the 10 pages of legal text attached to the offer letter. You just want to scroll to the bottom and click sign. But if the salary is the carrot, the contract is the stick. And if you're not careful, you might be signing a document that handcuffs you to the club, prevents you from playing for anyone else, or even claims ownership of your thoughts. In this chapter, we're going to put on our legal glasses. I am not a lawyer, and this isn't legal advice, but as a career strategist, I am going to tell you the 3 traps that can kill your future transfer value. The non-compete handcuffs. The first and most common trap is the non-compete clause. This is a paragraph that usually says something like, for a period of 12 months after leaving the company, the employee shall not work for any business that competes with the company. Read that carefully. If you work for a bank and you sign this, you are technically agreeing that you won't work for any other bank for a year if you quit. If you're a specialist, let's say you're a specialist in automotive engineering and you agree not to work for competitors, you are essentially agreeing to be unemployed. Your skills are only valuable to competitors. Now, the legal reality of non-competes is changing. In many places, they are becoming harder to enforce. Courts often view them as unfair restraints on trade. But that doesn't mean companies won't try to scare you with them. If you see a broad non-compete, do not just sign it. Push back. You can say to the recruiter, I'm uncomfortable with the breadth of this non-compete. It seems to imply I can't work in my industry at all. Can we narrow this to specifically define direct competitors or list the top 5 companies I can't join? I want to be fair to you, but I also need to protect my livelihood. Reasonable companies will often agree to narrow the scope. If they refuse to change a word of it, that is a red flag. It tells you they believe they own you. The golden handcuffs, notice periods, and garden leave. The second trap is the notice period. In the US, 2 weeks is standard. In Europe and other parts of the world, notice periods can be 1 month, 3 months, or even 6 months. From a Mercato perspective, a long notice period is a disaster. Remember Chapter 6 about the transfer window? Remember panic buying? If a company needs a manager now because their house is on fire, they cannot wait 6 months for you to serve out your notice. They will hire the person who can start in 2 weeks. A long notice period makes you illiquid. It makes you hard to buy. Check your contract. If they're asking for a 3-month notice period, try to negotiate it down. I'm happy to give a month to ensure a smooth transition, but 3 months seems excessive for this level of role. However, there is one version of this that is actually great: garden leave. Garden leave is when you resign and the company says, okay, you're going to a competitor, so we don't want you in the building seeing our data. Go home. We will pay you your full salary for 3 months, but you cannot work. This is the jackpot. You get a 3-month paid vacation before starting your new job. It is the best rest a corporate athlete can get. If you see a garden leave clause, that's usually a win. But a working notice period? Keep it short. Intellectual property. Who owns your brain? Finally, we need to look at the IP assignment clause. This is the everything you create belongs to us clause. Most contracts say that anything you create during company time or using company resources belongs to the employer. That is fair. If you code their software on their laptop, they own it. But some contracts are greedy. They say anything the employee creates during the term of employment belongs to the company. Do you see the difference? During the term means 24 hours a day. If you're a software developer and you build a cool iPhone app on your weekends, on your own laptop, does the company own it? Under a bad contract, yes, they can claim it.
If you write a book about your industry on Sunday mornings, do they own the royalties? Maybe. If you have a side hustle, a blog, a podcast, or you're planning to launch a startup one day, you must declare this before you sign. Ask for an IP exclusion or a side letter. You list your current projects and say, these are excluded from the employment agreement. I have seen people lose their own startups because they didn't read this clause. Don't let your day job own your dream job. So, take the contract home. Read it with a highlighter. If you don't understand something, pay a lawyer a few $100s to review it. It is a small price to pay to ensure you're not signing away your freedom. When the contract is clean and the money is right, you sign. The ink dries, you are officially a new player for the new club. The transfer is complete. You have the jersey. You have the locker. Now the fans are waiting. You have to step onto the pitch and perform. The deal is done. You are now a new signing. It's time to perform on the pitch.
Chapter 13. The first 90 days. Impact of the new club. You have signed the contract. The money is in the bank. You have your new laptop, your new email address, and a fresh badge. In football, this is the moment the player steps onto the pitch for their debut. The fans are watching, the pundits are watching, and most importantly, your new teammates are watching. There is a specific pressure that comes with a high transfer fee. If you negotiated a big salary using the tactics in this book, you have a target on your back. People expect you to perform. If you stumble in the first few months, the whispers start. Is he really worth that much? He doesn't seem that special. The first 90 days are your probationary period, not just legally, but socially. This is where you establish your reputation. You were either the great hire who saves the day or the expensive mistake. In this chapter, we are going to talk about how to secure your position, silence the doubters, and set yourself up for the next transfer before you've even finished your first year. The debut goal. Securing quick wins. When a striker joins a new club, nothing settles the nerves like scoring a goal in the first game. It doesn't have to be a bicycle kick from 40 yards out. A tap-in counts the same. In your new job, you need a tap-in. You need a quick win. The biggest mistake new hires make is trying to change everything immediately. They walk in on day one and say, "This process is wrong. That software is outdated. We should do it how my old company did it." Do not do this. You will annoy everyone. You are the rookie in the locker room telling the veterans how to play. Instead, spend the first 30 days on a listening tour. Ask everyone, what is the one small thing that frustrates you every day? You will hear things like, the weekly report takes forever to format, or we can never find the latest version of the logo. Find a problem that is small, annoying, and fixable. Then fix it quietly and present the solution. Hey, I noticed everyone hates that report, so I built a template that automates it. Here you go. Boom! You just scored. You made their lives easier. You didn't criticize them, you helped them. You have proved two things. One, you are competent, and two, you are a team player. Accumulate 3 or 4 of these small wins in the first 90 days. It buys you the political capital you need to make the big changes later. Locker room politics. Building alliances. In every team, there is a hierarchy. There is the manager, your boss, but there are also the captains, the informal leaders who actually influence the culture. You need to identify who these people are immediately. Look around the meeting room. Who do people look at before they answer a question? Who makes the room laugh? Who does the boss trust implicitly? It might be the senior engineer who has been there for 10 years. It might be the executive assistant who controls the calendar. You need to build alliances with these people. Invite them for coffee. Don't talk about work. Ask them about the history of the company.
Ask them, if you were in my shoes, what is the one landmine I should avoid? People love to give advice. It makes them feel respected. By asking for their guidance, you were stroking their ego and turning a potential rival into a mentor. Remember, in the corporate world, you cannot succeed alone. You need people to pass you the ball. If the locker room turns against you, it doesn't matter how talented you are, you will be frozen out. Setting the pace. The trap of overworking. Finally, we need to talk about setting boundaries. There is a temptation when you start a new job to run at 110% speed. You want to impress. You arrive first, you leave last, you answer emails at midnight on Saturday to show how dedicated you are. Stop. You are setting a dangerous precedent. You are teaching them how to treat you. If you answer emails on Saturday during your first month, they will expect you to answer emails on Saturday in your 12th month. If you accept a workload of 60 hours a week now, that becomes your baseline. This is how high performers burn out. They sprint the first mile of a marathon. You need to deliver results, yes, but you also need to train your manager on your boundaries. If you get an email at 9 p.m., do not reply immediately unless the building is burning down. Reply at 8:30 a.m. the next morning. You are signaling, I am responsive, but I am not on call 24/7. If your boss dumps a massive project on you when you are already full, don't just say, yes. Say, I'd love to take this on. Currently, I'm focusing on Project A and Project B. Which one of those should I pause so I can give this new project my full attention? This is professional pushback. It shows you manage your time like an asset. The goal of the first 90 days is to be respected, not to be a doormat. You want them to think, she is sharp, she delivers, and she is a professional. Not, she is a workhorse we can exploit. By the end of 3 months, you should have a few wins under your belt, a network of allies, and a sustainable routine. You have secured your place in the starting 11. But the Mercato never sleeps. The moment you stop growing is the moment your value starts dropping. You need to make sure you don't get comfortable on the bench. You're successful in the new role, but the Mercato never sleeps. How do you keep your value high? Chapter 14. Avoiding the bench. Continuous development. There's a tragic story that happens in football over and over again. A player has a breakout season. They score 30 goals. They get the big transfer to a top club. They sign the multi-million-dollar contract. And then, they get comfortable. They stop doing the extra training sessions. They start enjoying the lifestyle a little too much. Their fitness drops. Their sharpness fades. Within 2 years, that superstar is sitting on the bench. Within 3 years, they are sold to a lower league team for a fraction of what they cost. This is the depreciation trap. And in the corporate world, it happens even faster than in sports. The skills that got you hired today will not get you hired 3 years from now. The rate of change in technology, in software, and in business models is accelerating. If you are standing still, you are actually moving backward. To win in the Mercato long term, you cannot just be a player. You have to be a student of the game. You need to view your current job not just as a paycheck, but as a funded research and development lab for your future value. The scout's eye, spotting the trends. Most employees are reactive learners. They wait for their boss to say, we are switching to this new software. Here is the training manual. By the time you are learning it because you have to, that skill is already a commodity. It's standard. It's worth $0 extra in the market. To increase your value, you need to learn skills before they become standard. You need to be the player who learns a new position before the coach even asks. How do you find these skills? You become a scout. Go to the job boards once a month. Don't look for jobs you can get yet. Look at the nice-to-have section of the job descriptions for the roles one level above you. Are you seeing AI prompt engineering popping up? Are you seeing Python listed for finance roles? Are you seeing ESG reporting for management roles? If you see a keyword appear 3 times, that is a signal. That is the market telling you, in 2 years, this will be mandatory. If you learn that skill now, while it is still rare, you become the unicorn candidate. You become the hybrid player, the marketer who understands data science, the accountant who understands automation. When you have a skill that is high in demand and low in supply, you dictate the price. Now I hear the objection. I don't have time to learn. My boss works me too hard. This is where you need to be strategic. You need to apply the 80-20 rule. You should aim to do your core job, the stuff they actually pay you for, in 80% of your time. The other 20% should be reinvested in your own development. Google used to famously let engineers spend 20% of their time on personal projects. You need to create your own 20% time. How? By being efficient, by automating the boring stuff. If you can finish a report in 2 hours instead of 4, don't ask for more work. Use those 2 saved hours to watch a tutorial, to read a white paper, or to play with a new tool. Do not ask for permission to do this. You don't need permission to become better at your job. If your boss catches you reading an industry report, you say, "I'm researching trends to make sure our strategy stays competitive." They will love you for it. View this time as R&D for you, Inc. Companies spend millions on R&D to build better products. You are the product. If you don't invest in upgrading yourself, your product becomes obsolete. The Friday 15. Documenting the wins. Finally, we need to solve the problem of memory. When you go to update your resume in 3 years, you will not remember what you did on a Tuesday in November. You will forget the specific numbers. You will forget the crisis you solved. And because you forget, your resume will be generic, managed projects, boring. You need to implement the Friday 15 routine. Set a recurring calendar invite for yourself. Friday, 4:45 p.m. 15 minutes. Open a document on your personal computer, not the work laptop in case you get locked out. Call it the brag sheet. Write down 3 things. What was the biggest problem I solved this week? What metric did I improve? Saved money, saved time, made money. Who did I help? Feedback or praise received. Do this every single week. It takes 15 minutes. At the end of the year, you will have 52 entries. You will have a gold mine of data. When it's time to ask for a raise, you print this out. When it's time to update your LinkedIn, you have the stats ready. When you go to an interview, you have 52 specific stories to tell using the STAR method. You are building your highlight reel in real time. Most people reach the end of a year and wonder, what did I actually achieve? You will know exactly what you achieved. And more importantly, you will be able to sell it to the highest bidder. So, keep training, keep scouting, keep documenting, because even the best players eventually have to move on. Sometimes you don't move to another team immediately. Sometimes you take a break. But in the corporate world, a gap on the resume is seen as a weakness, unless you know how to frame it.
Chapter 15. The Free Agent. Gap Employment Strategy. In football, when a player's contract runs out and they haven't signed with a new team yet, we don't call them unemployed. We don't say they are out of work. We call them a free agent. Notice the difference? Unemployed sounds passive. It sounds like nobody wants you. It sounds desperate. Free agent sounds powerful. It sounds like you are on the market, evaluating your options and waiting for the right bidder. It implies choice. In your career, you might face periods where you don't have a full-time employer. Maybe you were laid off. Maybe you quit a toxic job without a backup. Or maybe you just needed a break. The traditional advice says gaps on a resume are deadly. They say you must hide them. But in the mercado, a gap is not a weakness. It is a strategic pause. It is the off-season, but only if you brand it correctly. From unemployed to consultant.
Here is the golden rule of the free agent. You never, ever describe yourself as looking for work on your resume. If a scout sees March 2023 to present, unemployed/seeking opportunities, they subconsciously devalue you. They wonder, why has nobody picked him up yet? Is there something wrong with him? Instead, you're going to rebrand. From the day you leave your last job, you are a self-employed consultant. You are going to fill that gap on LinkedIn with a legitimate entry. Independent consultant, marketing strategy, freelance developer, Python and React. But wait, ask you, is that lying? No, it is a mindset shift. The moment you leave your job, you are a business of one. You should be using that time to offer your services, even if it is just a small project for a friend's business, or advising a local nonprofit, or doing some gig work on Upwork. As long as you are doing professional activity, you are consulting. When you go to an interview and they ask about the gap, you don't look down at your shoes and apologize. You look them in the eye and say, I took some time to work on independent consulting projects. It was a great way to see how different companies handle these challenges, but now I'm looking to bring those insights back into a full-time role where I can build something long-term. Do you hear the difference? You didn't admit defeat. You framed it as a period of growth and exploration. You controlled the narrative. Now, for this rebrand to work, you cannot spend your gap months sitting on the couch watching Netflix in your pajamas. A free agent in sports trains harder when they don't have a club. They hire private coaches. They stay in shape so that when the phone rings, they are ready to play immediately. You need to treat your unemployment gap as a training camp. If you are out of work for 3 months, that is 480 hours of potential work time. If you invest those hours into a certification, a portfolio project, or learning a new language, you can actually increase your transfer value while you're unemployed. If you are a designer, build a concept app. If you're a project manager, get your PMP certification. If you're in finance, model some stocks and publish your analysis. When an interviewer asks, what have you been doing since you left your last job? And you can pull out a tablet and say, I built this prototype, or I earned this certification. You instantly blow away the competition. You prove that you are self-motivated. You prove that you don't need a boss to tell you to work. That is an incredibly attractive quality. Now, finally, we need to talk about the fuel that keeps the free agent machine running. That fuel is cash. You cannot play the Mercado game if you are living paycheck to paycheck. If you have zero savings and you lose your job, you are desperate. You will accept the first lowball offer that comes along just to pay the rent. Desperation is the enemy of negotiation. To be a true mercenary, to have the power to walk away from bad deals, to wait for the transfer window, to hold out for the 20% raise, you need a freedom fund. You need 3 to 6 months of living expenses in a liquid savings account. This money is not for buying a car. It is not for a down payment. It is your walk-away money. When you have 6 months of runway in the bank, your body language changes in an interview. You are not begging, you're evaluating. If they offer you a salary that is too low, you can smile and say, I'm afraid that doesn't meet my expectations, and you can actually mean it. You know you won't starve. You know you can wait for the next phone call. Building this fund is the most important career step you can take. It buys you time, and in the Mercado, time is leverage. So, if you are currently in a gap, stop panicking, put on your jersey, update your LinkedIn to consultant, start a project. You are not out of the game, you are just waiting for the right contract. But eventually, the body slows down. Eventually, you can't just be the star player running up and down the field. To maximize your earnings in the final stage of your career, you have to evolve. You have to move from the pitch to the dugout. You have the tactics. Now, let's look at the ultimate goal, the Hall of Fame.
Chapter 16. The Legacy. From Player to Manager. There comes a moment in every great player's career when the legs start to go. You can't run the full 90 minutes at the same pace. The recovery takes longer. The younger players are faster, hungrier, and cheaper. In football, this is the twilight of a career.
But in the corporate world, this is actually the gateway to the highest level of the game. This is the transition from player to manager, from the pitch to the technical area. If you stay an individual contributor, a player, forever, you will eventually hit a hard ceiling. It doesn't matter how good a coder, a writer, or a salesperson you are, there is a mathematical limit to how much one person can produce, and therefore there is a limit to how much a company will pay you. To break through that glass ceiling and enter the executive salary brackets, you have to stop selling your labor and start selling your leadership. You have to stop being the one who scores the goals and start being the one who builds the team. Hitting the ceiling, the math of leverage. Let's look at the economics. If you are a star player, your value is linear. You work an hour, you produce a result. Even if you are the best in the world, you only have 24 hours in a day. A manager, however, has leverage. If a manager leads a team of 10 people and they improve that team's output by just 10%, they have effectively created the output of one full new employee without hiring anyone. Companies pay for leverage. That is why the VP makes more than the senior engineer. The VP controls the output of 100 engineers. You need to recognize when you have maxed out your player value. If you look at the salary data we discussed in Chapter 2, and you're already at the 95th percentile for your role, you have two choices: stop growing financially or change the game. You need to pivot. You need to stop asking, how can I do this task better? And start asking, how can I get 10 people to do this task? The headset, positioning for leadership. The problem is, the skills that make you a great player are often the opposite of the skills that make you a great manager. Great players are often selfish. They focus on their stats, their performance, their code. Great managers are selfless. They focus on clearing obstacles for others. If you want to be promoted to management or transferred to a leadership role at a new club, you have to change your language. In your interviews, stop talking about I. Stop talking about how fast you work. Start talking about the system. I noticed the junior team members were struggling with onboarding, so I built a mentorship program that reduced ramp-up time by 40%. I didn't just close the deal, I created a sales playbook so the rest of the team could replicate my success. You're signaling to the owners that you are ready to wear the headset. You are showing them that you are a multiplier. You make everyone around you better. This is how you justify the executive package. You aren't being paid for what you do. You're being paid for what you enable. The coaching tree, your ultimate network. Finally, we need to talk about legacy. In football, the greatest managers like Sir Alex Ferguson or Pep Guardiola are judged not just by trophies, but by their coaching tree. How many of their assistants went on to become great managers themselves? In your career, your true power eventually comes from the people you have developed. When you become a manager, your fans change. Your fans are no longer just your peers. They are your direct reports. If you treat them well, if you fight for their raises using the Mercato tactics you learned in this book, and if you help them get promoted, they will be loyal to you forever. And here is the magic part. Eventually, those people will leave. They will go to other companies. They will become directors and VPs. And who do you think they will call when they need a high-level advisor? Who will they recommend when their CEO needs a new board member or chief officer? They will call you. Your coaching tree becomes a spiderweb of influence across the industry. You won't need to look for jobs anymore. The jobs will come to you brought by the people you mentored 10 years ago. This is the end game. You move from chasing the ball to owning the team. So look at your career arc. Are you still trying to be the top scorer? Or is it time to start drawing up the tactics? The game plan is set. We have covered the mindset, the data, the brand, the negotiation, and the longevity. You have the entire playbook in your hands. It's time to head to the locker room for the final team talk. Conclusion: the final whistle. We have reached the end of the playbook. The tactics board is full of diagrams. You know the moves, you know the strategy, you know how to calculate your value, how to market your skills, how to negotiate with the ruthlessness of a super agent, and how to keep your career moving forward. But knowledge, as they say, is only potential power. It becomes real power only when you apply it. And I know what you're thinking right now. I know because I have been there. You are feeling a mix of excitement and terror. Excitement because you finally see a path to the income you deserve. You see that the salary ceiling you thought existed was actually just a mental barrier. But terror because executing this strategy requires you to do something uncomfortable. It requires you to break up with the status quo. It requires you to look your boss in the eye and say, "I am leaving." It requires you to walk away from the known and step into the unknown. It is scary. The human brain is wired to seek safety. It is wired to stay in the cave, even if the cave is cold and uncomfortable, because at least we know where the bears are. But I want you to remember one thing as you take off your headphones today. I want you to remember the cost of inaction. We talked about the math earlier, the difference between the stayer and the mover, the difference between a 3% raise and a 20% transfer fee. But let's look beyond the spreadsheet for a moment. Let's look at what that money actually represents. That extra $20,000 or $50,000 a year isn't just numbers on a screen. It is the freedom to get out of debt 3 years earlier. It is the down payment on a house in a safe neighborhood. It is the ability to help your parents when they get old. It is the college fund for your children so they don't start their lives in debt. It is the capital to eventually start your own business and leave the corporate game entirely. When you stay in a job that underpays you out of a misplaced sense of loyalty or fear of change, you aren't just hurting your bank account. You are stealing options from your future self. You are subsidizing your company's profit margin with your family's dreams. That sounds harsh. It is meant to be. The corporate world is not evil. It is simply indifferent. It is a machine designed to maximize profit. It will pay you exactly as little as you are willing to accept. If you accept less, that is on you. But now you have the antidote. You have the Mercato mindset. You know that you are not an employee in the traditional sense. You are a business of one. You are a high-performance athlete selling your services to a club. And like any athlete, your career is short. You have 20, maybe 30 prime earning years. You cannot afford to waste 5 of them playing for a coach who doesn't play you or a club that can't afford you. So what are you going to do tomorrow? Are you going to go back to the office, keep your head down, and hope someone notices how hard you work? Or are you going to start playing the game? I want you to take action this week. Just one small step. Go to the salary websites and find your real number. Update your LinkedIn headline. Send a message to that recruiter you ignored 3 months ago. Start the momentum. You will face rejection. You will have interviews that go badly. You will have headhunters who ghost you. That is part of the sport. Every striker misses shots, but you only need one ball to hit the back of the net to win the match. You only need one yes to change your financial trajectory forever. The days of the gold watch are over. The days of the company man are dead. This is the era of the free agent, the era of the personal brand, the era of the Mercato. You have the talent, you have the experience, and now you have the playbook. The transfer window is open and the scouts are watching. Do not settle for the bench. Update your stats, call your agent, and go get the contract you deserve. Your career is a sport. Go play to win.
Before you go, I have one final assist for you. If this playbook gave you a new perspective on your career, don't keep it a secret.
Great players make the whole team better. So, if you got value from this, hit that subscribe button right now. Think of it as your season ticket to high-performance career advice. We are going to keep dropping tactics that the HR departments don't want you to know. Share this with a friend or colleague who is stuck on the bench and needs a push. And drop a comment below. What is your specific transfer value goal for this year? Put it in writing. Make it real. The game is on. I'll see you in the next video.